action there. D also kind of getting caught up in the traffic a bit, and you got to have those eyes wide, and you know if you're going to have a switch off, you can't get caught up down in the water.
Ted, I definitely want to get your sense. I was on a call earlier today with Dave Burkett, and I asked him the question, which call was worse? Was it the crazy, picking up a flag against Brandon Pettigrew?
We actually made Jared sprint. So I would do sprint training with him once a week. I would actually do it with him. I'd run with him. So we topped off and we would hit at least 90% of his max velocity once a week. My reason for this, from a training perspective and from really pre-acclimation for the tissue, more so from a hamstring, hip flexor, quadricep, when you want to avoid some of those soft tissue injuries for a quarterback who's not hypermobile, they don't run a lot.
And welcome to the Detroit Lions news show. We're going to have a great we have an insider here. We have John Macaroon, who's actually in the locker room. He's at the field. He's going to tell us a whole bunch of good old stuff. We have Nate Castro with one ass cheek and two toes. And we have the main event, Mike, with the main event. John, this must have been the best, workout session you ever seen, because I'm watching these highlights with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he's just cooking them. Like, give us some insight here for us podcasters, and make sure to subscribe to the Detroit Lions news show, everybody's podcast, Lone Wolf Podcast, Detroit Lions Lowdown. Let's ask John. John, take it away.
Yeah, no doubt. It was wild. I think everybody that's a Lions fan is really excited and happy about what happened today. It was awesome, man. It was great to see the Detroit Lions offense face off against somebody else. And here's what's great. The Lions defense has really, really taken strides forward, and they were able to do that against Tua. And even though Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill weren't there, they still were dominant. Two sides. You're reading that the Lions were dominant on both sides of the football. That's great to see. And so I just think there was a growing concern that the Lions offense wasn't playing well, and largely due to the fact that, like I've said on the Lone Wolves podcast, is that the Lions defense has 11 nice starters that are playing pretty well. And Kelvin Shepherd is not new, guys. He's not new. So get excited that it really the Lions offensive struggles really highlights how well the defense has been playing, but it was good for the offense to go up against another opponent and to take them to the woodshed. So I think everybody's understanding that. In a lot of practices, we're all writing down number 14. When the Lions need a play, he's just Mr. Consistent. So it's fun to go out there and see the Lions just invite a team to Allen Park and then dominate them. How did you guys experience it? Were you as excited reading it as I was there, standing on the field, watching Tesla about to front on a short defensive back and JMO swinging on Iffy? It was, like I said, I'm amped up, and it's exciting. How did you guys take it, man? It's a fun time. At least today, Lions got a victory in day one of the joint practice. Clear cut, 10-7 round, baby.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, John. I've been digesting everything as it comes out about training camp today. And my question, John, were you there for the fight with JMO and Iffy?
Yeah, absolutely. So the blessing of the job is I'm fully credentialed. I go to every training camp practice. Last year was really a highlight in that I went to the joint practices, and there's something about the vibe that is there when a new team comes in, because you get used to it every single day. You're watching film against your own teammates. You're watching and knowing the tendencies of the guys. So you're talking the same junk to the same people day after day after day for 12 practices. Now the 13th practice, you get new blood, and they don't know everything that's going on with what you got. And so yesterday was great in that Grant Stewart talked to me, and he kind of introed the day, and he was like, man, Doc, the Dolphins are not ready for what's about to happen here. And the Dolphins fans went all crazy because they don't want to be known as being soft, and they're trying to shed that label. But the Lions, you guys know, they practice pretty hard, and they know that comparatively speaking, that their practices are so much different and more intense than other teams. And so Grant Stewart laid the foundation, and then he talked the talk, and then he walked the walk today. He was out there doing some things. And so at the end of practice, we're all a little bit tired. It's a long day. You're taking a lot of notes. I look over, and there was a lot of trash talking from the Lions. Let's just be real. They were making
Right,
plays.
not surprising.
And they were talking trash. And so at the end of practice, I think that it kind of boiled over, and JMO swung on Iffy. And it was a violent swing. It was a roundhouse. It was not squaring up. It was a boom. It was out there. And it was fun to see. I wish we could have taped it. I looked at him directly, and it was 5 yards from me. And luckily it was a 1-2 combination, and that was it. They pulled those two guys apart. So I said on the Lone Wolves podcast today, it had the feeling that maybe last year or in one of the practices that if he was allowed to be there because he was always hurt, he must have said something to JMO. It was like a receipt tag, and it was awesome to see. I wish, for me, loving football, I wish they would have just let it go for 5-6 minutes, let them go. So the two teams were ready. But it was great to see. And look, man, the Dolphins got punked, and Iffy probably said something to JMO that didn't sit well, and JMO's not going to take anything from anybody, and he swung wildly, and both teams it got into it for like a good 10-15 seconds, and then everybody backed away.
So my thing was, when I found out that they were going to do a joint practice with the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel is a pretty good play caller and very creative play caller. And I wanted to see how Shep would react to his play callings and creativity. So could you talk to me about, obviously the Lions dominated almost on all facets against the Dolphins, but what did you see with the chess match between McDaniels and Shep going at it?
Yeah, no doubt. Now today, it's tough. I'm one reporter. So here's the way it went down. I wanted to hyper-focus today on the Lions offense. So I had another reporter, and you can get the blow-by-blow exactly at Lions on SI. The perspective is from Alan Pupar. He's a reporter from the Dolphins, similar company as us, Dolphins on SI. And so here's how it went down. The Dolphins were frustrated. It was one of those deals where they had drops, they had mental errors, they had difficulty managing what the Lions were bringing to the table across the board. Grant Stewart, Alex Anzalone, Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport. The Dolphins were flustered. Zach Wilson threw a lot of picks. Aiden Hutchinson was in the backfield quite a bit. And so for a new team, basically the best way to describe it and how Alan described it to me, which is featured on his site, Dolphins on SI and mine, we exchange information so that we covered both practices. The best way to describe it is the same things that you saw struggling with the Lions, drops, issues. The Lions defense was getting after it. They were disruptive. And even for a fast-paced offense like the Dolphins, it was disruptive. Now, I did see one period at the end. The Dolphins were given a minute left, and same with the Lions offense, and they were tasked with moving the football. Now, Tua got the ball out quickly to a tight end quickly, minimal gains. And then 3rd and 4th down, it was pure coverage by the Lions. And they in their situational period, they did not make any sort of advancement. Lions offense gets out on the field in a late situation, and Jared Goff is finding Brock Wright, finding his tight ends, moving the football, and it's more crisp. So that was the end of the game scenario. So best way to describe it is 2 points to Kelvin Shepherd and no points for Mike McDaniel. The line and Tua said it in front of the entire Miami media. It was frustrating. It was one of those days where it really hurt them not to have Tyreek Hill and Jaden Waddle. It really hurt. And hey, that's their problem. The Lions defense won the day, and they dominated. It was described by many reporters that it was one of the most lopsided joint practices you're ever going to see. So basically, 80% of the reps that were taken were won by the Lions. That's pretty good. And Achane made plays. Certain guys did make plays, but Zach Wilson struggled. And most likely people are reporting, according to Allen, that Ewers probably was the better of the quarterbacks. getting after it, but Zach Wilson didn't have a good day. Tua didn't have a good day. And best way to put it, no interceptions for Tua, but no touchdowns. And the reports that came out in the red zone, which you should have opportunities if you're a good offense to get into the end zone. Lions got into the end zone time after time. Amon-Ra definitely was battling and getting to the end zone. Lions running backs getting to the end zone. Dolphins struggled. Lions defense won the day. And Kelvin Shepherd, I think, is earning a good is growing as a play caller just based on the pressure that he's bringing and how he's using the talent that's there. And even without Kirby Joseph, Lions defense was dominant.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question here for John. The elephant in the room is Marcus Davenport, and I keep hearing reports like the second day of camp he's dominating, and I'm hearing he's dominating today. Do we need to bring Zadarius Smith back in? And then, Mike, you ask the next question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a good question. You can never really have enough pass rush help. He looked good today, got a couple pressures. Most of the pressures were coming from Aiden Hutchinson on that side of the field. They would rotate. And you look at it and you say with Marcus Davenport, the big question mark is not talent. It's never talent. He's a former first-round pick. And the Lions like the value that they get, but the reason why you get him at a value is because of the fact that there are question marks regarding if he's going to be available. If you can get 10, 11, 12 games out of him in the regular season, have him healthy, whatever program they're going to try to put him on is predicated on keeping him healthy for November and December and the playoffs. So I hope that works. But unfortunately, guys, you can't count on that. You can't count on it just based off of history. So how do you do that? You hope that Hassanin develops. You hope that you hope that Keith Cooper develops. You hope that Nate Lynn is contributing and gives Davenport a spell. But I'm always of the opinion you never can have too much pass rush help. And so I would bring him back. I'd bring back Zadarius Smith if the money's right. What do you guys think? Do the Lions need Zadarius Smith?
Yeah, I think 100%. Zadarius Smith was asked on the red carpet of the BET Awards, hey, where are you going to sign, Zadarius? He said, well, you know where I want to be. I want to be in Detroit. And then at the after party, someone said, when are you going to sign that contract with Detroit? He said, soon, very soon. But then we find out 2 days ago that his Detroit girlfriend, Cash Doll, the rapper, they broke up. So what kind of wrench does that throw into it? I think that there's always been a plan for Zadarius Smith. We saw that Jackson Meeks, his nephew, was signed by the Lions as an undrafted free agent. He was also given the UDFA maximum of $200,000. So I think that is a considerable point. And, man, I would love to see Zadarius come back. I do think that he will come back. But as a vet, why go through all this training camp? But to your point on Marcus Davenport, 100%, it's never been about talent because when he is out there, he is productive. He's never had a season in 7 seasons. He's never had a season where he didn't end up on the injured reserve list at the end of the season. But in 2019, I believe it was, he had 9.5 sacks when he played 14 games for the New Orleans Saints. So, and if you look at his games played and his sacks over his career, he averages a sack every 2 games, which is phenomenal. So definitely productive player when he's out there. But how available will he be? How many games can we count on it? Well, I don't think he ever intended to get hurt. And the Lions signed him to a very team-friendly deal to come back this year. So I think the value that we get for him, even if we don't get Zadarius Smith, I still like the way our defense is shaping up, even with the players that we have, because we know we're going to get Lee McNeil back. We know we're going to get Josh Pascal back, Mekhi Wingo. We know these players are going to come back and fortify that D-line. And I think Kelvin Shepherd's a creative former player, former linebacker. He's going to generate pass rush one way or the other.
Yeah, I think with Marcus Davenport, the reality is that he is what he is. He's an athletic specimen. He came like that at UTSA. The reality is injuries have just been a problem for him. And I honestly think that with this Lions team currently, I think you could see more of a platoon situation where they have Aiden on one side because he's going to play every snap, let's be honest. And then you're going to have Davenport in snap counts kind of situations. And then you're going to have Pascal, you're going to have Akili Muhammad, you're going to have Hassanin, because all these guys, the staple of all these guys, they all set the edge. You know, Davenport's probably your best pure pass rusher from that side because he can push and bull rush with his power. But Hassasin, Aquahim Muhammad, Josh Pascal, they're set the edge guys, which is fine. You want that opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. So I definitely think that currently right now, Za'Darius doesn't necessarily make any sense. And here's the thing with Za'Darius Smith, and I've said this multiple times. If they really wanted him, he would have already been signed. Like, this is Za'Darius's camp making all these narratives out there because they want the Lions to sign him. But I don't think that Brad Holmes, I love Brad Holmes, he doesn't want Za'Darius. If he wanted him that bad, he would have gave him the contract. We have the money. That's not the issue. We just don't want him because we have guys like Pascal. We have guys like Hassasin. We've got guys like Haik Muhammad, Cooper. You've got other younger pieces. Lynn, he's another young guy that nobody's really talking about. So there's just not a need for him right now. Now, if we have a serious injury, different story.
Right. Now, to put it to your point, it's when you say they don't want him, the best way I would describe it is they have not yet reached contract terms in terms of their agreement, where Za'Darius has a price and it's probably very much higher than the compensation the Lions want to give. And so when Brad Holmes says we are keeping in contact, what that tells me is that Brad has delivered the message that this is the number, 3-4 million, a lot of incentives. And Za'Darius is like, that's not going to work for me, brother. I'm going to need a little bit more than that. I'm going to need some financial security in the same neighborhood that he was at last year. And so how I always look at it, it's a financial business. It's all about dollars and cents. And so also for Za'Darius, you can relax. You understand the Lions system. It's not going to be all that much different. And you can leverage yourself by waiting. If another team suffers an injury, you just need two teams to want you, and then you can raise the bidding price. And so right now, the desperation from the Lions to get a defensive end is low, and so the leverage is in their favor. If another team suffers a significant defensive end injury, I do think potentially there are opportunities that Za'Darius will have at the end of camp when players get cut and there's more movement. And so you guys are absolutely right. I think the need for Za'Darius right now in the middle of August is not great, but towards the end of training camp, when you round out your roster, I do think that Za'Darius Smith will find himself with some opportunities if there's some injuries. And it's all about dollars and cents. I do think there is an above average chance he ends up in Detroit, but if the dollars make sense somewhere else, he'll quickly jump on it. For sure.
Mike?
Yeah, well, I mean, and we don't know, obviously, but Brad Holmes may have let him go last year rather than pay the signing bonus with the understanding that, hey, like you just said, John, somebody out there is going to give you that $13 million that you want. Maybe not now, but by the end of training camp, maybe somebody will be willing to pay that $13 million to bring in. And let's face it, he is a frontline starter. He's a known commodity in this league. And any team would love to have Za'Darius Smith at the right price, like you said, John. And that goes back to what we're talking about, Marcus Davenport. I feel fully confident the Lions were content to let him leave last year, but when he decided to stay on such a team-friendly deal, we could see the same thing for Za'Darius. I think the Lions would love to have Za'Darius Smith at the right number. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, absolutely. How much confidence does this performance that you hear today? Now, look, tomorrow, this is how it kind of has gone. The Lions were dominant against the Giants when they came here a couple years ago, and then the next day there was a little bit more plays. You realize these are competitors, and they're talking to today from the Dolphins coaching staff. That's not what we're looking for out there on the field where it's universal. So I expect tomorrow. Tomorrow, my reports will be from the side of watching the Lions defense against Tua, and Alan's going to watch the Lions offense. So if you can check out at Detroit Podcast, you'll get live updates regarding what period they're in, what's the main stuff going on. And so I do expect the Dolphins to step up a little bit. They had a nice ranked defense last year, so they have pride. I did not agree with their decision to switch Ramsey with Minka, but it probably was a culture change. As you know, sometimes addition by subtraction is the key. But I'm encouraged. That the Lions were able to establish their goals, be clean, less mental errors, get in and out of their huddles, and both units, first and second team, were able to make some plays. Now, but there is room for improvement. While definitely both sides of the football played well, unfortunately Manu just struggles in practice, was giving up pressures, and he's just for some reason it's one of those deals where he doesn't practice well, but he takes the lessons learned and applies it to the game. So we might have a player that is never going to shine in practice, but is going to get out there and take all the mistakes and take it out on opponents, which I'm okay with. I think that's something that if you can perform, I'd rather you be that than Hendon Hooker, who people say is performing well in practice. And I don't see it in terms of touchdown drives, but, I'd rather have that where he shines better in practice than stinks it up on the field. I don't want to see that. So I'm encouraged by what I saw today, and I do think that there's value in it, and I do think that it could carry over to tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Allen Iverson was terrible in practice, but he balled out in regular games all the time, so it really doesn't matter. I do want to talk about the second elephant in the room, Johnny Morton. A lot of Lions fans, if you put a litmus test to them right now, they'd be a little concerned about the offense because losing Ben Johnson, that was a big loss, and the fact they went to Chicago was even hurtful more. What are you seeing from Johnny Morton, and how are you seeing the chemistry and the synergy with the offense? Because I think that's one thing that Lions fans are a little scared of. We know the offense is loaded with all the talent in the world, but it's about the play calling. What are you seeing from Johnny Morton as far as his play calling, his attitudes, how he's – I hear he's very fiery and he gets juiced up with the players. Is that true with him?
Yeah, I appreciate the graphic. That's awesome. Yeah, I was one of the first people to kind of put John Morton on the fans' radar. I put a picture up when I was hearing. I did research and got some information from the Denver side of things, and I realized, oh man, John Morton was a previous candidate for an offensive coordinator job in Detroit, previously interviewed, and the blessing is that he was part of the install of this offense. So conceptually, the Lions understand the philosophical nature of the offense from John Morton. It's an extension of what he brought in and Ben Johnson mastered. But you're absolutely right. We're not going to know the answer to how he does in games calling games until we see it. But here's the thing in practice. The Lions are experimenting. They're trying different things, potentially maybe opportunities with multiple running back sets, Pony 21, as Dan Campbell called it, opportunities to expand. They're trying to, see how the deep passing game looks with Goff and JMO. And so the best way I describe it is it has the feel of testing out new things, like testing out a new recipe. Like you have good chili, it's good, but sometimes you want to add more basil, add a little bit more spice, maybe go from 5-alarm to 6-alarm. Let's see what happens if we add more spice. What happens? And against a defense that's purring like a kitten, it hasn't looked great. But I look at it like talent to me trumps all. And I just would have a really hard time saying that an offense with Jared Goff in his 10th year in his prime, a young offensive line that has two bookends that I really like at the tackle position, and then young interior offensive linemen that I think will develop nicely over the course of a year. I have a hard time seeing the offensive talent that potentially could have now a new young stud in Isaac Tesla and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. I just have a hard time thinking that offense is going to struggle for 18 games. So I just feel like overall, yeah, there may be growing pains. And remember last year, the Lions offense in the first quarter of the season struggled. They didn't get it rolling until after the first 4 games. Right. So it does lend to the debate that maybe the starters should get a couple series, get some kinks out in the preseason, like some NFL teams do, a couple series, just to see the flow of Johnny Morton. But I do think that early on, it's hard to decipher because a lot of things are vanilla. You are seeing, you're not seeing the full range of the offense. But I'm always of the opinion the kitchen's built well. The stove is great, brand new. All the ingredients are brand new. And I just need the chef to make sure that when it's time to dial it up, that you get the right recipe to serve to these people. And I do think that that's what's going to happen. But right now, you might get one where you go, oh, my God, I burned my mouth. I can't even ingest this. Then the next day you go, okay, I got to dial it back a little bit. And you go, oh, my God, it's too bland. Got to add a little salt. And so every single day, I look at it like it's an adjustment period. The offense has definitely been behind the defense, but I just am not as concerned because there's also going to be an influence day to day with Dan Campbell. He's going to help with the game plan. And so the part that you guys are very fair to assess is what is Johnny Morton what's he going to dial up on a lot of these games? But I do think that naturally speaking, you would expect a lot of run plays. You expect to try and establish the run so that play action can be called off of it and get Amon-Ra the ball, Laporta the ball. And I just think that with a defense that you can count on, bend, don't break, I just think that it's going to be more of the same. Close games with the Lions being able to win some tight contests. But, yeah, you're right. John Morton, his play calling will be one of the focal points of the first quarter of the season. What do you guys think? Are you guys supporting the national narrative? A little bit cautiously optimistic. I know you're reading that the offense doesn't look great in practice, but that's because the defense is going full speed ahead, and they're ahead of the Lions offense right now as they're experimenting.
Go ahead, Nate. You got a take on that?
Yeah. So John, my thing with Johnny Morton being hired, I understand it because he was on the staff with Ben Johnson. My thing is that it's kind of weird because he was on the staff, and he's a senior guy. Like, why wasn't he made the OC over Ben Johnson? Like they sent him away and then he comes back. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, if this guy is as good as people say he is, why did Detroit let him go?
Now, Nathan, you're hitting on a point that also fired up some people on my new YouTube Lone Wolves podcast, which you can find similarly inspired by Darcy and everybody in the YouTube community. I threw it out there because I thought it too. I watched the Jets game and I was like, wow, the offensive line looks pretty good. Justin Fields looked pretty crisp. There's also a young talent in Tanner Engstrand that was learning under Ben Johnson. And he's a guy that is kind of similar to Ben Johnson. And so I looked at it and said, oh man, did they make a mistake? And I know it's early, but you gotta talk about these things. And so that will be a talking point. Did they let the wrong guy? Did they hire the wrong guy? Because John Morton's a little bit older. He's showing these guys 1965 film. I bet you if you gave him a couple bourbons, they'd be like, why the heck am I watching 1965 football? I'm like, this guy is not in my department here. But I do think that he gets credibility because of his hometown status. I do think he's trying to prove he's got the similar kind of grit mentality that a lot of these players have. He flopped with the Jets. He's got something to prove. And now he's been given this luxury offense. And for him, it's going to be an opportunity, I think, to shine. But I think the blessing is that we're underrating what Dan Campbell can be, too, in terms of influence. He's going to be in that room giving John Morton a lot of insight in regards to tendencies and what play calls at certain times. And so with the influence of Dan Campbell and John Morton, I do think that the reason why is Ben Johnson was targeted as a guy that's just a wizard, that is somebody that can masterfully utilize previous calls to set up different calls. And I think that he was one of those guys that really, when he got the opportunity to work with Jared Goff, established an offense that they felt like, you know what, Jared probably would relate to a young offensive mind that would break down an offense and put it together in the image of a quarterback that's a pocket passer and get after all the strengths. So at that time, everybody's coaching path is different. And Dan Campbell probably felt like, hey, we got something here with Ben Johnson. And you can't argue that Ben Johnson did a bad job. He, orchestrated the top 5 offense in the whole league and one of the best scoring offenses in the history of the league. So one of those deals where it might be fair to say the reason why John Morton didn't get the job over Ben Johnson is he's not as good as Ben Johnson. But being somebody that is learning and growing along the way with this new tutelage under Dan Campbell might have a chance to get after it and change people's perception of what he brings to the table.
And let's not forget that the familiarity with Dan Campbell goes all the way back with Sean Payton in New Orleans. So Dan Campbell knew exactly who John Morton was before he even got here in 2022. In fact, Dan Campbell has said before that he was somebody that he looked up to when he was first breaking into coaching and went to for advice and guidance. So I think in the long run, to your point, John, they are going to be just fine, but I am concerned, to answer your question. What do we think about it? What do I think about it? I am a little concerned because the loss of Ragnow and the loss of Ben Johnson, you're losing 2 of the 3 in the Trinity, the play caller, the center, and the quarterback. And those 3 need to be in lockstep at all times. And when you see this schedule come out for the Lions and it's murderer's row right up to the bye, I do think it's very possible the Lions could stumble out of the gate, especially with fundamental things like, protection alignments and the calls at the line and those things while they do work some of these bugs out. I'm not that impressed by blowing out the Dolphins in a joint practice, because like you said, this was the number one scoring offense in the league. This is exactly where they should be in the preseason, smoking the Dolphins in a joint practice. But I do think when the bullets start flying and the regular season jumps off, we may see this team struggle a little bit offensively. But I really feel confident that the defense is going to surprise a lot of people. What do you think of that, John? And one other thing, what do you think the defense is going to do this year? One thing. And also for the people who may be watching, I know a lot of my viewers are tuning into this broadcast today. Can you give us the correct pronunciation of your last name, please?
Thank you, guys.
Because I'm 100% sure it's not Macaroon.
It is.
It is Macaroon?
It is. John Macaroon, like the cookie. That's how you say it.
Wow, awesome.
It is. So, don't assume wrong. You guys got it. I really appreciate you asking. Spelled as it, I know some people say McCarron or things like that. No,
that's what I said.
Macaroon, like the
Macaroon.
cookie. I appreciate your audience asking. That's a great question. Thank you.
Nate is Castro, like Fidel.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm sure that's what he wants to be known by.
Well, I'm not a communist. Just for the record, okay.
Hey, well, you know what? You're Justin Trudeau's dad, so and I'm Canadian, right?
Now you know why no one names their kids Adolf.
Right. So to your point about the defense, I love the starting 11. I just think that the depth at certain spots, cornerback, linebacker is going to be something. Safety, I think you're pretty much comfortable with. The interior of the defensive line, I think, has a little bit of depth. But the starting 11 is really great, guys. I think the front four, you're going to be happy with is Aiden Hutchinson, Tyleik Williams, DJ Reader, and Marcus Davenport. That's a good starting point. And then you got the outside with Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed, I think, is a solid unit that's going to compete very hard. You got Jack Campbell at the wheel. You got Mike Alex Anceloni, Sam, Derek Barnes. I think he's going to be quietly going to have a good season. You can put him out on the edge as well, and he's going to get after the quarterback. He can bring some pressures too. The depth at Sam is going to be interesting to see who gets those opportunities to rush from the linebacker spot. But if there's anybody that's going to find those answers, it's going to be the defensive coordinator who was the former linebackers coach. So I'm happy with this defense. I think they can be top 10. I think they can seriously be a top 10 defense. And now their mission is to get more turnovers outside of interceptions. Dan Campbell is harping on it every single day. They're trying to punch the ball out. They're trying to get opportunities to get more possessions. And so I'm confident this can be, with staying healthy, it can be a top 10 NFL defense.
John, I got a question. It's second preseason game, but you've seen a lot of practice, I imagine. Give me one player on both sides that nobody's talking about and why we should hear about them more.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a team that has a lot of players that are making noise, that are doing some things. Clearly, the rookies, I'm really impressed with. We're all talking about the rookies. The top three, I think, are going to produce, even Ahmed Hassanin. On the defensive side, I do think that, two players, Keith Cooper, I think, is a player that is making plays. He's getting after it. He wins reps. I think that they liked the opportunity. They gave him a contract after a tryout because he told me it was a simple question. I'm like, what did you do in that tryout to impress the Lions? He said, they told me to rush the passer, so that's what I did. I rushed the passer, and they were happy. And he's continuing to flash in certain moments. Now, there are moments in games where he's overwhelmed, but he's a young, developing player. I do think that Ian Kennelly is a player that is a local guy that people know, but he's making plays. And I think that as a result of a couple injuries has moved himself in a position that him and Avonte Maddox are going to be right there. And I think Kennelly has a chance to make this football team. A player, though, that I think is really under the radar, that's starting to get himself known, starting to talk a little bit more. Rock Ya-Sin is somebody that they can throw out, and he can be a cornerback. He can be a safety. He's just making plays. Now, he might have high ends, like he's already met his ceiling, but I think what he brings is consistency that the Lions like. Just goes out there and does his job, not flashy, knows where he needs to be, and can maybe be that guy that can make people forget about Ennis Rakestraw. So I like what he's talking about on defense. On offense, I really think that right now we are all talking about the offensive line, the interior. Really, it took a hit, unfortunately, with losing Sorsdahl. He was battling for that position as maybe a guard in a reserve spot. It was unfortunate. I thought that he was starting to kind of get things turned around a little bit in camp. He would have benefited from this week and next week. So losing him was unfortunate. But I like the new running back that they brought a little bit more than I liked Vaki. Vaki today had the rust, dropped the football, had a couple bad reps. I think the total picture of him, maybe he has a higher ceiling, but unfortunately injuries have kind of put him back a little bit. I think Jacob Sailors is somebody that prototypically you would like in terms of size, working hard, good work ethic, has stuff to prove. And I like it when your number's called. Hey, you get this drive and you move the football up and down the field. You take advantage of opportunities between the gaps and get after it between the guards. I was happy with what he brought to the table. He's always just doing his job, not too flashy, getting after it. And but a name now to watch this week. And of course, me being a state guy, I was like, what? Ronnie Bell was running with the ones today. And in the team period, I'm like, what? And I haven't seen, like, from my perspective, because my brain probably omits seeing it and just going, I don't want to watch that. But I got to pay closer attention to his special teams work, because for some reason, and I probably presume that he's been because you can't watch everything, and I skip special teams. I think that he's probably done a great job to get himself an opportunity, or maybe they just want to put some film out there if he doesn't make the team for him to maybe have opportunities elsewhere. But he looked okay. He looks the part. He looks like, okay, today he got targeted by Jared Goff. There were opportunities for him to make some plays. And today was one of the days where he got opportunity with the ones and he got after it. So it's a nice sign for him. And I presume I got to dig deep in the special teams notebook that he probably has shined. So he got a first team opportunity. It was nice to see him out there, and he made some plays today. Don't discount number 10 making plays. He was out there.
So I want everybody to promote their podcast. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Nate, for all coming on. Promote your little podcast. Promote your podcast, and we'll end it with that. Talk about it, guys.
Yeah, I'll start with mine. Listen, tomorrow there's another day of joint practice, Saturday, and most likely I think it tends to lead that if the starters are playing in the joint practices, I don't think that they're going to contribute much. So you're going to see a heavy dose of Hassanin on Saturday, a heavy dose of some young guys, Broderick Martin, a heavy dose of young guys battling for roster spots. So pay attention. It's just one practice on a Wednesday. Let's see how the Lions build on Thursday. You can find me, the Hub, at Detroit Podcast on X. I have the Lone Wolves Detroit Lions podcast. It runs now daily throughout training camp, but we'll find a niche spot during the week as we cover the Detroit Lions. On YouTube, it's just Detroit Lions on SI. But if you ever have a question mark how to find me, at Detroit Podcast, and then all the articles are at Detroit Lions on SI. And during all the podcasts, if you just go to the YouTube channel, it scrolls right across the bottom how to get to the website and all the content. But the Hub, it's like the main branch is on X at Detroit Podcast. You can find where all the shows are. Sometimes they're live there, and I appreciate you guys tuning in and having me and opening my mind a little bit to your guys' thoughts about things. And you guys have valid concerns, but the Lions, I think, when people bring up concerns, this group answers them. Let's go.
Let's go. So grateful to have your time today, John. Thanks so much for being with us. Be sure to follow me on all social media at Main Event Mike. Doesn't matter if it's X, Blue Sky, whatever it is, Instagram, Facebook. It's at MANE Main Event Mike. And tune into the Main Event Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on this network. Thanks a lot for having me.
Oops.
Yeah, John. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I love your articles, man. Always good to read them, and you offer great insight and information on the team. So I really enjoy reading those. You can find me at One Ass Cheek and Three Toes. You can YouTube One Ass Cheek and Three Toes, Instagram, TikTok, any kind of platform, Twitter or X, whatever they call it. One Ass Cheek and Three Toes. We're on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And just a bunch of Lions fans just want to talk more Lions football, man. Can't wait. It's already inching to go, ready for the season start. But thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll ask John to come on halfway through through the first quarter and to get an update there. And we got some good context because I did the Lions football legend camp. So we'll end it off with one of my favorite podcasters that came on. Enjoy the show. Subscribe. Detroit Lions News Show on YouTube.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. I mean, I think doing the Detroit Lions show, the fans out there are passionate, one of a kind. And so appreciate the work you.
Ted, I definitely want to get your sense. I was on a call earlier today with Dave Burkett,